All right, Rob, I mentioned it, 42-10. You and I both picked the Niners, but I don't think either of us thought it was just going to be a demolition. And that's what it was from beginning to end. Let's start with the Niners to, give them pub. They're the ones that won. So what was your biggest takeaway for the Niners or regarding the Niners from that game last night?
It was mostly the post game where players were making the case for Brock Purdy, who hasn't lost a regular season game yet. Like they know, Chris, deep down, that despite his success, and then we know he lost in the playoffs, right? He got knocked out of the game or whatever. But despite that, people aren't on board yet. People aren't on board with Brock Purdy despite their success, despite what he's done. They annihilate the Cowboys, and they're up there trying to get people interested in Brock Purdy, trying to get people to buy in, trying to get people to even say he's MVP level, like the idea of it. And I'm sitting here right here today, Chris, to tell you, people will never, 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 ever, 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 ever buy into Brock Purdy until he wins a Super Bowl.
Oh.
That's the only way that people will buy into him. Because, Chris, I'll tell you what'll happen. That they'll be all in all the way up until he loses in the NFC Championship game. Or he throws then it'll be, I knew it. I knew he could. He Mr. Irrelevant. He can't win a Super Bowl for you. That's where because of his beginnings. And there have been other quarterbacks, Chris, who haven't been great. Like Joe Montana wasn't a high pick, and Tom Brady was 6.
Tom Brady 6.
You know what I mean? Like other guys.
Right.
But not Mr. Irrelevant, not the last guy taken in the NFL draft. No, people will not. They will not latch their wagon to him until they win. Fair or unfair, I really believe that that's where we are, and that's why people are. And I get it, Chris. What is it, 15 regular season games? So not even a full season, right?
Well, has he started, I think, 10.
Right.
Yeah,
he hadn't even, you see what I'm saying? Right.
But I think he's played like 15 or 16 total, including the playoffs.
10 regular, right?
He's 15-0, I believe. Raji, correct me. Is it 15-0 including the playoffs in games he's started and finished?
He's 12-0 in games.
12-0.
Okay, 12-0.
So that's including
playoffs,
but that's starts
and regular season. Yes, starts and finishes.
And he played like 3. Yeah, I mean, he played the one game he came in and beat Miami when Garoppolo got hurt. So that he played essentially the whole game there. But go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, that's just my point, and that's why the players felt like they needed to sing his praises, bring attention to him, because they know that there isn't a lot of buzz about him. If you would ask people would still, he would be, Chris, quarterbacks who you're thinking about MVP, he would be 4th on the list, 5th on the list.
Oh, yeah, but that's pretty high for him.
Yeah, but I'm still saying,
that's pretty high.
having not lost is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but first of all, I don't know if the players were they asked about him? Or what do you think about Brock Purdy? Or there's still a lot of doubters out there about Purdy? What's your thoughts? Or were they just bringing him up unsolicited? So I think that's one thing. Like if they're being asked about him, which is very likely, then I don't think that's them trying to push a narrative, number one. Number two, the dude is the truth. I mean, now I'm not ready to say he's elite, but I'm ready to say he's really good. And I think it does somewhat play into what you're saying, is that people just want to, because he was drafted so low. I don't know if it's so much to do with being the actual last pick or just being a late pick. I mean, I think people took him a while to buy into Tom Brady too. And so I think because he was viewed as a game manager, which he was, to be honest, earlier in his career, but he started winning right away. And so I think that it's just natural to want to see more because by his numbers and by his victories, he's elite. But even I like him and I think he's the real thing, but I'm not ready to say he's elite because he wasn't, incredible in college. And he was drafted so low and all of those reasons that you brought up. But I also think, Rob, when you say, and I agree, I do think he will have to win the Super Bowl for people to really just give him the full amount of credit he probably deserves. And I actually think, Rob, for him to be considered elite, he might have to win too. And I say that because, and even the reason why the bar is he's got to win the Super Bowl is because they got there with Jimmy G.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we know they've been to 2 NFC title games, 1 Super Bowl with Jimmy G. Now, I think he's better than Jimmy G. Like, he doesn't make the mistakes that Jimmy G makes. And
Not
Jimmy
yet.
G was
Not yet.
Jimmy
Right.
G. Well, I mean, it's been a nice little sample size. I mean, he's got no interceptions this year. He's got like 4 for his career. So he just, I think he does have better arm talent and a mind for the game as a quarterback than Jimmy G. Jimmy G I always thought was good. I don't think he's great, but I thought he was good.
But somehow he won games. He always was winning.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he's not winning now with the Raiders,
Right.
but yeah, he did win. And I tell people this all the time. You can't say he was just a product of Kyle Shanahan because they were 1-10 with Kyle Shanahan and George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk and some other pretty good players that are still on the team. Raheem Mostert, who's getting busy with Miami and helped the Niners get to the Super Bowl. They were all there when that team was 1-5 or 0-5. And Jimmy G got there. I'm sorry, they were 1-10, and Jimmy G got there and won 5 straight games. And then the next year they go 13-3, when he's healthy, fully healthy. So, but I think Purdy's better than Jimmy G. So that's why I think he won't get the full credit because we knew they were a great team already. They've been to the Super Bowl already. And so, yeah, he's going to have to probably get him past that for people to give him his full credit. But I think he's really good. I mean, you watch the throws he makes, his decision-making, his accuracy.
Last night, everybody was wide open. Not really. Not every time. He dropped some dimes. Two. I'm talking about the couple of touchdowns. There was nobody.
That third quarter drive when the Cowboys had kicked the field goal and made it 21-10, and then the first drive of the Niners, he threw 3 straight fantastic passes. In fact, there was one that was called back on the sideline because of a hold. I think it was to Ayuk, but it was a hold that was, the ball placement was great. And he was putting it right between the defenders. He was 4 for 4 for like 82 yards on that drive. Like the dude's legit. I mean, I'm not ready to call him elite, but I don't know how anybody could like act like he's just, nothing, like he's not good at all or he's good.
I didn't hear anybody say he's not good at all. I just think that people are going to be guarded because they just feel like because I still say, Chris, he can play well and do all these things. And if he has a poor game or does something in a big game, they'll turn on him. They'll turn on him. And
he's had big games too. It's not like he hadn't played in the playoffs before.
But I'm talking about the 49ers. They're about winning it, right? They're about
right.
It's about winning a Super Bowl. They've already been to the Super Bowl. They've already played in big games. They won big games on the road. I mean, there's all these kind of things, but it's still about winning the Super Bowl for the whole franchise, for Kyle Shanahan, and for Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I also think a lot of it's going to be how he plays too. But I agree. I mean, because they've been so far, they got to win the Super Bowl. But if they get to the NFC title game and he plays great and they lose to the Eagles, it's going to be hard to kill him. I don't know if people will give him his props. You might be right about that. But we'll see if he's the reason to blame for them losing. Like Jalen Hurts was great in that Super Bowl last year. And he did make, obviously, that game-turning fumble. But, nobody blames him for that loss because he played so well.
Well, he played so well, right? I mean, he was outstanding.